My name is Gabe Gabriel. I'm a filmmaker from Cape Town, but I've lived in LA the past 5 years, working as an actor and a screenwriter, and have recently returned for a couple of screenwriting gigs here in South Africa. I've also dabbled a little in directing, in editing, in casting, and in producing. And I thought I'd use this opportunity to talk a little bit about DIY filmmaking because it's how I got my start. Fresh out of drama school, I started making my own short skits and short films and like clips to go online with the camera that I had, although today a cell phone works wonders. You don't really need a camera. And the friends that I had who were interested in making similar content to me, or friends who, like me, felt like there maybe weren't the kinds of roles that they were looking for, and because we were a bunch of actors, we really wanted to showcase what we felt was missing. Another reason to make DIY work or short films or your own content is if you feel a lack of representation, which, I mean, as we all know, the film industry, like many other industries, is pretty led by one singular voice and narrative, and it's important that we dilute that field with all of our stories. So I would encourage anyone who wants to get into film to just create, just make whatever you can, whenever you can, however you can, with what you have. And you'll be surprised how much you can make, how much story you can tell with very little. So I want to talk about DIY filmmaking because it's how I got my start, but also because it gives you a really good understanding of all the moving parts in a production or on a set. From start to finish, you get a good sense of the writing and the creation or the conceptualizing of the piece. Then you get a sense of what it means to shoot it and all the things that arise with that, and you also have to put it together at the end, whether you're editing or whether it's one take that you're just going from start to finish. You still are producing a final product, which you are then going to try and get out into the world for whatever reason you need it to get out, whether it's to get funding for further development or whether it's just to get your name out there. It's a really full process from start to finish. So the first thing you want to do is you want to come up with your idea. And a good way to do that is to think about stuff that matters to you or something that you want to make a comment on. And you're going to want to do that with what you have. So you've got to think about who you have at your disposal. Is it just you? Are you complete one-man band here? Or is it that do you have one friend, two friends, three friends who want to act or who want to help, or this one can do a magic trick or that one can play soccer? Whatever you have, think about how you can best use the people in your team and the places that you have access to. If it's just your room, or if it's just a street outside, or if it's like a whole restaurant that your auntie owns, I don't know. But think about what you have access to and use that in your story. The same goes for information. If you have special information about something, say you started with the idea to be a nurse and then you changed your mind, or you're doing this on the side, use that information that you have specialized knowledge in nursing. You can use that in your story because people pay doctors millions to go and consult on Grey's Anatomy to make sure that what they're saying makes sense. If you have a special skill or special knowledge about something else, use it. And then lastly, of course, it's your gear. If you're just working on a cell phone, that works just fine. You can prop up a couple of books and there you have a tripod. Or if you maybe have a camera or know someone who can lend you a camera, as long as you know how to use it and it doesn't hinder you in the process, use it. So once you've figured out everything that you have at your disposal and the comment that you want to make or the little story that you want to tell, that's when you go ahead and write it. And you want to start really simple. You start with that idea, with its turning point and its comment on something, and you build from there. Stay focused on that idea. If it's getting too convoluted, pare it down. Now it's up to you if you want to script this. It depends what kind of actor or performer or director or whatever you are. Whether you want it scripted, whether you want it improvised, but you want to have some kind of structure so that everyone on your team knows what you're doing and so that you know what you're doing, but also so that you can go to a couple of trusted friends or family members or colleagues and just say, hey, here's an idea. I have enough of a thing, even if it's a one-pager, to present to you to say, does this make sense to you? Do you have any questions? Do you have any feedback? Obviously only to people you trust. You don't want feedback from everyone, just people whose opinions you value or who might have something to add to you. You don't want to go through the whole effort of shooting and editing and everything if you haven't really scrutinized your original idea. Okay, so then next up you have your prep, which is a really important part of the filmmaking, because if you haven't prepped well, a lot more can go wrong on your shoot day or days. So this entails making sure that you know what everyone's wearing, what your costumes are. You have a shot list of everything that you need for your edit. This is every single scene and how many angles you're going to get on each scene. If you have a two-hander, you want it conventionally, and you can obviously always change this, but generally you want coverage on the one actor, coverage on the other actor, and coverage on both, so that you have enough to cut between. Unless you're going for a style that is like you want a one-take wonder and you really want to set up the shot and leave it there, that's also fine. I find that with this kind of DIY filmmaking, it really helped me to understand that to be able to cut between things, because you never know what you're going to miss on the shoot day, and if you can't save it in the edit, you kind of have to go back and shoot it. If it's scripted, make sure you know your lines well, especially if you're directing and acting at the same time. You want to have that script so ready on your tongue, because you're going to be thinking of a million other things, and that's when you lose lines unless you really know them. If you can know roughly what your camera setups are going to be, if you can know what the light is going to be like in the place that you're shooting. Sometimes I arrive somewhere to shoot something and then I'm like, oh shit, there's direct sunlight for the next 3.5 hours and it's really blowing out my shot. Now I have to wait or switch things up and go shoot something else first and then come back to this. So basically, the more you're prepared and the more you've thought about it beforehand, the smoother things will go on the day. Okay, now we come to shooting. It's your big day, you're going to shoot, stuff can always go wrong. The closer you are to the beginning of your journey as a DIY filmmaker, the more likely more things are going to go wrong. But it's also a really exciting time because you learn so much between your first and second shoot that there's a really vast improvement from one project to another. And that's why I say just get creating and create a lot, because if I think of my very first pieces compared to the third, fourth, compared to the seventh, the eighth, compared to the 12th, I got exponentially better in the beginning at avoiding crises on set and at telling my story with as few technical glitches as possible, because you've got to think of it as everything's a problem and you're solving it all. You can't think of it as nothing's a problem and nothing's going to go wrong, because everything's going to go wrong. A lot of filmmaking is just problem solving. So a couple of technical things can go wrong. There is the matter of eye line, making sure that your eye line is fixed with your other actor or with the object or wherever you're looking, and making sure that the camera never cheats that eye line so that you're looking here and then in the other shot the actor is looking somewhere else, and we as an audience don't believe that these two people are looking at each other. This gets more and more complex depending on how complex your setup is. If you're two people talking to each other in a scene and it's fairly straightforward, you should be fine. Your cameras should be set up along maybe this plane or this plane, not both. You can't have a reverse angle unless you're really clever about it. And your two actors should use each other as their eye lines. However, if you're cheating anything, or there's distance, or the camera is moving, there are a whole lot of other questions that come into play, so which are far too detailed for me to go into right here, but I can say to you, just be really sure on your eye line and try to keep things simple. Another thing you want to remember is room tone. When you're filming somewhere, no matter what your sound equipment situation is, it's a really good idea to get a little recording of that room that you're filming in silence, or if it's outside, you want that in silence. Just get everyone to shut up and get 30 seconds to 60 seconds of recording of silence there, so that you don't have the problem of that like this is my brilliant acting. I've spoken a little bit about coverage. There's also the thing of focus. If you are using a camera, you just want to make sure all your shots are in focus unless you're deliberately doing soft focus. It's nice to have a lot of different performance options if you can afford to. So when you're getting your coverage, you want your actors or actor to match their previous blocking as much as possible so that you can cut freely between stuff. But it's nice if they can give you a couple of different options as well, because you never know what the feel is going to be in the edit. And something you might think you wanted on the day can change depending on where the edit's going. So I always like to get the vision for the scene down the way I imagined it, and then go, let's do another one for safety, and in this one, let's play. Something cool could come out. It's really important to check your footage after each, not necessarily after each take if you're in a rush, but after each setup, camera setup, just to make sure your sound is still recording, to make sure that you're in focus if you have that facility to make sure that everything you're getting is coming across. You don't want to think you've got something and then only check it that night when you're dumping the footage and you're like, oh damn, we didn't get that. And lastly, if you can have an outside eye helping you, that's really great. If you have a friend who's interested in directing or performance coaching or whatever, have them come in and help you if you're acting in the piece too, because it's really hard to wear all the hats, and it's good to ask for help. And you never know, maybe they want something from you in return and you can barter in some way. The next thing you're going to do is your edit, if you are editing, and here's where you can really play. I think it's important not to get too stuck to your vision as an editor if you are also doing the writing and directing, because things are bound to change in the edit. Music is going to affect your edit. The feel of how lines were delivered is going to affect your edit. You're going to add titles, you're going to cut, you're going to change the pacing. So it's a good time to really play. A lot of editing is just problem solving stuff that happened on the day and saving face. Say you don't have a specific line in any of the shots that you got. Maybe you want to take that line out, maybe you want to move things up. You never know what you're going to have to do. The important thing is to play, because that's also how you learn. I'm learning new stuff about editing all the time because I'm a novice and I don't have editing training, so I'm constantly just learning how to do stuff. Again, at this point, if you can take it to your team of people who you trust to get feedback, you can finish your edit, you can feel like, finally I'm done, and then you take it to someone and they might go like, hey, I'm not really understanding this beat, or something bumped me here, or you haven't considered this, and you're going to have to go back into your edit and adjust it. Sometimes you really don't want to, but if you are able to ask a couple of people for that feedback, take what resonates with you and make the changes. It'll feel good in the long run. And last but not least, the final step in all of this is what next? This depends on what your intention is with making the film. You can go to festivals that are looking for short form content. Good platforms for this are Film Freeway and Without a Box, among others. But there are some festivals that are just run through Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or take email submissions. So wherever you see people are doing a call for submissions, some of them cost, some of them don't. Try to get your stuff in front of the people who it resonates with. Don't go spending a whole lot of money on every single festival. Find one that really caters to you. If you have a specific theme, or you fit into a group, for instance, if I'm making queer work, it really works in my favor to go to queer festivals, to festivals who are trying to boost queer voices. They will take a look at my stuff in a way that is different to if I just go to any festival. Or maybe it's a festival that's looking specifically at mental health. Or maybe it's a festival that loves comedy. Don't send your drama piece there. Just be really specific about where you go, because you can end up spending a lot of money that doesn't make sense. A lot of the festivals also offer notes or judges' feedback. Sometimes this is at an extra cost. I would be really wary of doing that. Usually if you have people around you, any people around you who are in the film industry, you can ask them. You can reach out to people online and say, hey, would you be willing to watch my stuff and give me feedback? Rather do that than spend all your money on the judges' feedback in festivals, unless it's an incredible festival and you can read up about the judges and you really value their opinion. That is just my personal view on it. I'm sure a lot of people have had great feedback from judges on festivals, but I've spent money on it where I've thought, actually, I shouldn't have spent money on that. If it's not festival route you're trying to go, another option is to send your short to producers or financiers or just friends with lots of money and say, hey, I'm trying to create this thing. Maybe you want to develop it into long form. That's a really great avenue for that, is sending it directly to people and saying, this is why you'd be interested, and if you have any inroads to taking it further, that would help us. Or you just want to send it to people so that they have you on their radar. Maybe you're going, I'm trying to get more work as a filmmaker and I want to show you my latest short so that you understand what I can do, what my vision looks like, what my aesthetic is, etc. If you're not sending it directly to producers or financiers, you could also just put it online. This is what I did. I started in 2011, 2012, putting my stuff online free of charge. I was just going like, hey world, here's what I'm trying to do. And you'll be surprised how many people responded to that with like, hey, I saw your thing online, can you actually come in and cast for such and such? Or hey, I saw your thing online, do you want to produce my short film? We have a small budget. And then I was starting to get hired work from the free work I had done for myself to not only build my craft, but also to get my name out there. The bottom line is that no matter why you're doing it and what avenue you're going to go down once it's finished, you are learning by making. And I think it's the best film school you can get, is just make and make and make. There's going to be great growth. You're going to feel it. Don't get disheartened if your vision doesn't work out. Be proud of your work, but also take note each time of what worked, what didn't, and why, so that you keep improving. I always used to say, if my current piece is a little bit better than my last, I'm headed somewhere. And that's kind of just how I've gone throughout my career so far. Thank you, Free Film School, for hosting all of this, and to anyone watching, check out all the other videos if you haven't already. There are some great ones there. I've learned a lot. I hope you do too.